Mark started. Just please state your name and address.
My name's Mark Shamray. I live at 10 Shore Lane, which is directly next door to 12 Shore Lane, which has a permit to remove some gravel and land there.
We do have a public hearing for that, so I think
Okay,
that when you,
that's what we meant by public comment.
sorry, yeah, because it's a hearing, you will have the opportunity to
Okay.
speak if you're for or
All right, so
opposed to
wait.
it. So, yeah, so let's get through a couple more items. Next on the agenda is the review of minutes for December 18th.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for December 18th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 5-0. Now we have a joint meeting with the planning board regarding a vacancy appointment. The resignation of Steve Lipka has resulted in a current vacancy in the planning board, and we had 2 candidates submit letters of interest. Who is here from the planning board, if you wanna? I think, yes, because the microphones are there, so scooch.
Hi, Paul Curran, the chairman of the planning board. Douglas Price, Tom Bonsi.
Great. Did you have an opportunity to review the candidates' letters?
We did.
Discuss?
Last night at a meeting, Liz came to the meeting, introduced herself, spoke very briefly about her interest in the position. That was really about it. I read Mr. Busnell's letter, and I've spoken to him about it, so.
Okay. I think with the last appointment, the library trustees, they had a candidate they put forth. I don't know if that is something that you want to do, or if you want to just have an open discussion about it.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Busnell for the position.
I second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? I just want to say that I had been speaking with one of the candidates and encouraged Liz to put forth her name, because I feel like the boards in town should reflect the population of the town. I think the planning board had a similar constituency for quite some time. I've worked with Mr. Busnell before. I served on this board with him, and I really enjoyed working with him, and I'm sure he'll do a good job. But one of the reasons I ran for this board is because it was the same. And I felt that as a woman, there are many women in Clinton, and I feel that if there are other people who are interested who fit a different demographic, we should consider them as well. So just wanted to state that publicly.
We do have an election every year, so they can get involved.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sir? Are you voting?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if you voted, you gotta take a roll call.
Oh, okay. Roll call. Thank you for clarifying. We'll start with you, Mr. Curran. Just state your name and the
Paul
vote.
Curran, I vote for Mr. Busnell.
The motion on the floor is for Mr. Busnell, so we're voting for whether Mr. Busnell will fill the vacancy. So it's aye or nay.
Aye.
Okay. And your name?
Price, aye.
Tom Bonsi, aye.
Ed DeVault, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, nay.
Matt Cobus, aye.
Mary Dick, aye.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Thank you. Thank you for serving, Mr. Busnell.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
John's here.
Yep. Next on the agenda is the earth removal permit public hearing, 12 Shore Lane. The Board of Selectmen received an application from Steve Bonazzoli to remove approximately 25 cubic yards of material from 12 Shore Lane in Clinton for the construction of a house and garage structure on the property. Excuse me, on the property.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, 2,500 cubic yards?
25, what did I say?
25.
Sorry, 2,500 cubic yards. Thank you for the correction. Mr. Bonzoli, do you want to come up and provide some additional information?
Hello, Steve Bonazzoli, 12 Shore Lane. Not sure, do you have any questions or?
Nope, if you don't want to add any additional information, we can move directly to the hearing.
Yeah,
Just, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Is this, going to be your home? Is it a single home that you build with yourself or?
no, I live across the street.
Oh, so it's
It's
just,
adjacent to me. I want to build a place for one of my kids, hopefully. They're getting out of college now. Might be too close, I don't know.
thank you. That's my own question.
Okay. Any other questions before we start the hearing?
Yeah, I have some logistic questions. Should we do that now? Or?
We can wait until after if you want.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to explain what's going on here? Like how many trucks we're talking about, how long this is going to take, just for the record, so people understand what's going on?
Well, I put in there, I think about 6 to 9 months. Depending on like right now, we got a deep freeze here. I mean, I don't know.
When's it going to start?
I'm a junk man. I mean, it'll start as when I can, if I get the approval, once it gets probably a little warmer, next week maybe, if it gets into the upper 30s like they're saying.
And how many trucks a week do you think?
I really haven't even started to ask. I'm guessing maybe 10. I mean, I don't know.
How big are the trucks?
The 10-wheelers.
But you're not sure.
No, something like that.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a disturbance to the neighborhood.
Okay. Since this is a hearing, we can move to the portion of this hearing where we'll ask anyone who is in favor of this permit to come forth. Are you in favor of it?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please come forth.
This is the right time.
This is it. You got your cue.
My name's Mark Shamray. I live directly next door on 10 Shore Lane. I've lived there for about a little over 5 years, and that's the lot directly to the east of it. What's there now is a total eyesore. It's a very nice neighborhood. Everyone takes nice care of their yards and everything. Steve especially, he does a very, very nice job on his yard. People come over and they look at that and they ask me, what's going on there? Because it's just piles of dirt and rocks and things like that. So I just want to state for the record that I'm in favor of it, and I encourage a yes.
Thank you so much for that. Is anyone else here to speak in favor of this permit?
I think it's too cold.
Okay, we'll close this portion of the hearing. Is anyone here to speak in opposition of this permit? No? Okay, we'll close the portion of the hearing. We do have a piece of paper with the bylaws related to it, if anyone needs a reference.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Sure.
How close to the water is it?
Probably, what do you think? Probably 500, 600 feet.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of our road and back, so it's nowhere near it.
Yeah, a couple 100 yards.
These are the maps for it if you want to
Uh-huh.
grab one.
I guess my concern is you don't really know the impact because you don't know how many trucks or how long it's going to take. It just seems like a
We'll
little,
open it.
yeah, a little
I
fuzzy.
mean, I've owned the junkyard in town for 33 years. I just sold it. This is kind of my semi-retirement type of thing.
We
it's
generally
not
have a
something I do for a living.
Oh, I understand.
And I'm only trying to do it for a certain reason.
Are you gonna do it yourself?
Yeah, and it will be, like anything I do is extremely good.
Mhm.
Very nice for whatever I do, for wherever I do it. It will be very nice.
If you were to drive down,
Matt knows. I've known him his whole life.
yeah, if you were to drive down the street in the summertime, the nicest lawn would be his.
All due respect, we're just going here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's just my concern that we usually have a sharper point on this, something like this before we approve it.
Yeah, is there like a time frame if you're doing this kind of
Yeah, like I said, depending on, but 6 to 9 months,
6 to 9?
depending on the
Okay,
weather.
sorry. You
As
did
long
that.
as it shouldn't stay this cold this long. I hope.
Yeah,
I'll go to Florida
That's
for a couple
for-
months.
that's for the construction of the home and the
No, for the
grounds, or just the
removal,
removal
and
of the, okay,
And then the start of it.
okay. So removing all of it and then you'll start on home. Sorry,
Yeah.
not super.
Sure, Madam Chair, so I took a ride up into that neighborhood just to look at the lot. And I understand fully
Yeah.
what
I
you're,
have to look at it every day, so.
what you're speaking about. You know, there were, that was part of a development that took place. I mean, that must be what, 10 to 15 years ago at this
Mhm.
point. And I believe, are you the last house on the left-hand side, or is there one more after you?
I think there's one more after.
One more
At
after.
the other side.
Barry's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's close to South Meadow Road.
Mhm.
And it's right around the corner from the old landfill,
Mhm.
which this project will be much shorter than the capping of the landfill itself. So you know, there's minimal, I would expect minimal disturbance just based upon the route to get out of this area and back onto 110. I think it, you know, for the betterment, you know, and it's developing for a family member, which is directly across the street. You know, I'm in full support of this, considering the neighbor is also on.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
What's the pleasure?
again, as Matt, I've been up in the area as well. And as you spoke to it, I mean, it's just a bunch of material that's just sitting there that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's easy to.
Right,
It's
right.
easy
So
to notice
anything
which
that,
lot. is
right, so
the
anything
others.
that would be done
Yeah,
would just enhance the neighborhood. And I
Mhm.
can understand that it would be a lot nicer to see it out of there, and something developed in that particular lot. So I would be in favor of it as well.
And just one more piece too.
Mhm.
The material does not appear to be what was naturally there. It seems to be, it was created
Right.
possibly in the development of that area. So it's not that necessarily taking something that had always been there
Mhm.
away. It just seems to be, you know, the dirt that's been pushed back and forth and,
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Bonzoli? Right. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the earth removal permit for 12 Shore Lane, by Stephen Bonazzoli.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I'm going to vote against it, but I wish you luck. I just would love more details.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
4-1. You're all set, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
and help you with the
Thank you.
details.
I get one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Madam Chair,
Oh, sure.
with that vote, town council will put together a draft decision for signature by the chair. And then that would need to be recorded with the registry of deeds. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the Wachusett Cannabis Inc. Host Community Agreement. Representatives of Wachusett Cannabis Inc. would like to discuss receiving a host community agreement for a retail cannabis operation at 470 Main Street in Clinton to take over the space formerly utilized by Tyka Green. Is anyone here from Wachusett Cannabis? Come on up.
Good evening,
Hi, how are you? If you could just state your names, please.
Jigar Patel, founder of the company, Wachusett Cannabis. Shay Merson, 349 Oak Street, and general manager.
Great. So you are interested in taking over is it state taking over this former
The former
Tyka Green?
Tyka Green,
Okay.
space.
Is this like a transfer of an agreement or is this a new agreement?
Would be, yeah, my understanding is it's not a transfer.
No.
So Tyka Green's not renewing
Yeah, okay.
their license, but this will be a new application with the Cannabis Control Commission.
Mhm.
So it would require a new host community agreement. So
Okay.
if the board, I think tonight, what the action we're looking for from the board is if they're satisfied with all the submittals, then you would give the authorization to proceed with a host community agreement. So it would be a new agreement,
Yeah.
not an amendment to the prior Tyka agreement, but it will be
Okay.
a new amendment with Wachusett, or
Okay.
new HCA with Wachusett, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then town council would work that out with the
Yeah.
applicant and come back to the board for final.
Final. Okay. All right. Anything you'd like to add before we?
Yes, I'd love to say that, I'm excited to propose the cannabis, retail space in town and use a space that's already been built out for the use, and, bring a successful business concept into a vacant space. And I also reside in Clinton, and so does Shay, and, we're interested to, boost more business in Clinton and bring a little bit more business into the town as well.
As well as a few extra jobs.
Yeah. Great.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to,
Oh, do you have a
well,
question?
we could
Oh, we
also
can
do
discuss
turn
it.
this.
Oh, okay.
I just figured if, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize town council to enter into a new host agreement, community host agreement with Wachusett Cannabis Incorporated.
I'll second.
Mary, do you want to?
Yeah, I just,
Discussion?
just
Yeah.
some questions. I know
Okay.
that
Sure.
Yes.
You're talking about the previous society.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
And I'm just curious that, you want to make this new investment. And obviously, they didn't seem to be successful in
Right.
their endeavor at that particular site. I'm just curious what you feel you're going to do different than, and I know that there was a lot of money invested into opening that business. So I'm just curious.
Sure, yes, absolutely. So we have a successful business strategy where we're offering a variety of different products that cater to different demographics for different uses. And really the inventory selection that we'll have alongside our, in-store experience and making sure that we're matching up products to folks who actually, have a need for them and a desire for them, is sort of like the baseline of how we envision, gaining customers, retaining customers, making sure those SKUs are remaining in stock week over week. It's very much like a pharmacy or a grocery store model where, things have to be there right in time for when folks really want it.
And at a reasonable price.
So you're going to do the medical.
No, so it's what I meant by pharmacy is just the basic model of walking up to a counter, getting something, for example.
No, but I know some of these cannabis places do have the medical.
That's right. So we would be recreational only.
So you'll be only, okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So we don't grow any cannabis or anything. There is a extraction facility and a kitchen extraction kitchen in that facility as well. Primarily to begin with, we'll be operating the roughly 3,000 square foot retail space of the building, and then moving into the extraction and kitchen part of the facility as well to expand our operations in that regard.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or discussion points? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Good.
Thank you
4-1.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Phil Duffy, Director of Community and Economic Development, to discuss open space and recreation plan update and request for placements of EV charging stations.
Hey, Phil.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for making the time to see me this evening. I'm here first on what is effectively a procedural matter. As you know, I think back in 2022, we received a community compact funding to update our open space and recreation plan. Angela Snell, the former assistant town administrator, was a running point on that project. The draft plan has been completed. After a process that involved multiple public forums and participation of a committee that included members of relevant boards such as the Parks and Rec and the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, Select Board, and members of the community. We are prepared to submit this draft to the state. As part of that submission, letters of review are required from your board, from the Planning Board, and from our Regional Planning Commission. So I'm here before you this evening, not necessarily for your endorsement, but just to go over the plan, identify quickly some of the responsibilities that are assigned to your board in the implementation plan, but to begin that process of your review and letter of review that would be submitted in accordance with this plan. So this is an update to our open space plan. In my 25 years in the town, I think this is the fourth time we've done this, if not the fifth. There's been a lot of continuity from plan to plan. It basically identifies the community's resources and objectives relative to open space, conservation, and recreation. And our plan for years has included the required data and documentation of existing resources, and it kind of organizes its goals broadly in the areas of protection of existing open spaces, expansion of open space and recreational opportunities, linkages of connections between open spaces, neighborhoods, communities, and other communities in the region, a kind of a management framework to augment achievement of the goals, and then two new categories which are part of the state's new guidelines, which include climate resiliency and so basically the plan establishes a number of goals which are cited in the excerpt I provided to you, and then establishes an implementation plan that describes particular tasks intended to achieve that goal and assigns responsibility to different entities in the town. Your role as select board, where you have been assigned responsibility in the implementation plan, is largely executive or supportive. There's no one action item where you are solely responsible. But for instance, just to pull one out, let's pull out install signage for wetland and habitat areas to inform community about protected lands and their significance. As you can see, that's goal 2, action item 1. There are a number of entities that may work towards that goal, but at some point that has to do with basically installing signs on public property, town-owned property, and you would be involved in signing off on that. Another great example would be, let's see, ensure public access to the Mossy Pond Peninsula for recreation purposes. Again, town-owned land, so you would have a say in how that would go. Some of them are in the, only one really is on the order of policy. I thought was interesting, which was goal, this is under climate resilience, goal 1. Action item 2 is create a comprehensive tree planting policy aimed at enhancing green spaces and promoting environmental sustainability. That could be construed to include street trees as well as park trees, conservation company, those kinds of things, to be on the order of policy. So this is really kind of, the members who have been on the board for a long time. This is probably not your first time around with this kind of an update, but I'm just putting the plan forward to you, see if you have any questions based on what you may have been able to read so far, and to initiate this process of your review and written letter stating that you reviewed.
Okay. So we can review this and maybe in the next meeting, vote for
Yes.
support or non-support.
Yes. I should say this plan has some value as a planning document. I
Yeah.
should say many of these action items have continued over from plan to plan because they haven't yet been implemented. Some of them are just on the basis of reminding people of objectives like, considering the prioritization of open space when reviewing development plans. But they are also, it's an updated and up-to-date open space plan is a threshold requirement for certain grant programs that the Conservation Commission or Parks and Recreation Commission or town may choose to utilize at some point in the future. So it's one of these documents that it has to be in place in order to meet a threshold requirement for certain funding opportunities.
Okay. I was on this committee, so I don't have any questions, but does anyone have any questions at the moment? No? Okay.
Okay, great. So we'll come back next month and in a bit, is it a month's time probably adequate for your review?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll reschedule in 2 meetings and come back and see if there's any questions and take it from there. If any comments will be incorporated into the draft words on this. Okay.
Thanks.
Second matter before you has to do with our one round of funding that we received for EV chargers. Just to bring you up to date, you may recall that in 2023, we received funding from both National Grid and the Massachusetts EVIP program to install phase 1 chargers, level 1 chargers, kind of old-fashioned slow chargers at the Church Street lot and the Walnut Street lot. 2024, National Grid introduced a new program which would pay for 100% of phase 2 chargers, the fast chargers. And so we applied for that program and got funding for the same locations, which are really kind of the priority public EV charging stations, locations in town. We received that grant. We're proceeding on the implementation of that. Left us the question of what to do with the prior award that we had received. So we have looked at alternative locations. One will likely go up at the high school. And whether we're going to put on a second one really depends on getting some clarification from National Grid as to the transferability of those grant funds to another location. Mass EVI program has already indicated their willingness to allow us to use those funds at a different location. Speaking with my consultant earlier in the week, we have not yet nailed down National Grid as to whether our second round funding from National Grid supersedes the first, or if that's still in place and whether they will allow us to move those stations. We looked at Pleasant Street. Unfortunately, if it was to be applied, located on private property, the grant would only pay for 80% of the cost. We weren't able to work out something with the owner of that property, the public lot on the parking lot on Pleasant Street, where the lot is actually partially on public right of way and partially on private.
You were not able to come to an agreement?
Yes. Yeah.
No
What
agreement.
was what was the hang? There was no agreement, right?
Yeah.
What was there a hang up?
The hangup was the cost. The property owner had already installed EV stations at a different part of their property. And they just didn't, and effectively, and quite frankly, it's more expensive to do these with public funds than it is to do them with private funds. And so that basically based on the cost, they didn't see an adequate benefit, which I understand. Already addressed. So we're looking at other locations.
So there were employees parking in those spaces is not considered to be an adequate use.
I think they determined
Really,
that the installations that they've already made at their own
Yeah.
expense are adequate to the need at this time.
Right, but they have employees who use those parking spaces now.
Yes.
So that's not, so they don't feel that adding or contributing to a EV station would be worth their while, even though their employees are using those spaces.
Their employees who drive electric vehicles have the opportunity to park in their own lot on using charging stations that the property owner has already installed.
So there's an additional demand, so there's no.
They don't see the additional.
Value.
But I think it's just, I think from a communal standpoint, they have employees who use public parking spots up there. So I would think from a communal standpoint, it's not, does it solely benefit the town? Maybe, most likely, but And that's on a 20% split, like 80-20.
80/20 years.
So 20% we couldn't come to an agreement on.
That's $10,000. So we're looking at other alternatives. The Water Street lot has been ruled out because of slopes, can't meet the ADA requirement. I spoke with the library, basically their parking is so scarce that it really doesn't make sense. So we'll continue to look at that. So I'm just really coming here with an update, asking you to basically effectively, I just come here with an update. I was hoping to come with you for a request for action, but we haven't been able to determine whether National Grid will allow us to port these funds to another location. So I'll be coming back to you at some of the time to either tell you that they're not portable or that we've identified another location where these funds can be used.
Madam Chair. You know, I know you had mentioned the high school.
Yeah.
My opinion, I think the challenge with that would be, one, it's accessible to the public, because typically you try to decrease the public's access to a school while school is in session. You know, currently there's an EV charger that was installed next to a dumpster down at the elementary school.
Yep.
But I would think that, somewhere where public access is encouraged,
Mhm.
might be worth considering, in my opinion.
Yeah, these spaces have to be available to the public. They don't necessarily need to be in public spaces. Very often these grants are used in large apartment complexes, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So in
What
short,
about the parking lot across the street where where all the fields are? That's
Absolutely.
accessible.
Yeah.
Hundred
You just
percent.
drive right in there and that's,
Yeah.
you're not interrupting anything. right?
that makes better. We'll have to re-engineer because we're actually going to tap off. There's a large transformer pad on the north side of the high school.
Oh.
I think we're going to run off of that. But yeah, we'd have to re-engineer. But no, that actually might be a better idea.
Yeah, that's
That's
just
a good suggestion.
people walk in the park and plug in and.
So these would be the level 1 chargers. So it's like 4.5 hours to an 85% charge. So it's not sure that the people
Lot
get
of laps.
unless they got a lot of lights.
Take a lot of license.
So really, those are my two matters of business before you. Neither requiring an action, just want to get the ball rolling, and the other just to give you an update.
Thank you for the
Great.
update.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the town solicitor has drafted an updated host community agreement, or maybe multiple ones, agreements to conform to new Cannabis Control Commission regulations that have been requested by the following businesses: Elevated Inc., 56 Sterling Street.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this HCA was signed, the original one back in July of 2020. Since then, the company Elevate Inc., they have received 2 provisional marijuana licenses, but they haven't received final licensing. So
Okay.
they're looking to, have a new HCA executed that complies with the new regulations. So this is similar to what we've done in the past.
Okay.
So it tracks the new regulations, but it's just, it's just a different form of the HCA. But it's been, like I said, the original was 2020, but they still don't have their final license, but they still do expect to get it. I don't know the timing. So,
All right.
this facility's at 56 Sterling Street.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
is there an
so-
action item for it?
No, the action item would just be whether or not the board,
Wants to-
we've negotiated this HCA, so whether or not the board wants to give the okay to have it signed by the town administrator on behalf of the board.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to enter into a host community agreement with Elevated Inc. at 56 Sterling Street.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Council on Aging Board vacancy. The Select Board has received interest from 2 individuals seeking appointment to serve on the Council on Aging Board for the current vacancy due to the resignation of Stephen Mendoza Jr.
Madam Chair, I'll make. a
Yeah.
motion
Do I have to, sorry, do I have to state these names publicly?
Um,
For the open
do they
meeting?
need- I mean, they're posted on the agenda.
posted.
Oh, they are,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think we
Sorry.
need to state.
See them.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint
Oh, here.
Lisa Philbin for the Council on Aging vacancy appointment.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Philbin, for serving. Okay, town administrators report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to kind of go over a few items for the board. The EPA grant for the environment cleanup at 172 Sterling Street. I was informed by the Community Economic Development Office that that project should begin this week. I think the hope was to start today. He wasn't sure. They were a day delayed, so it might be tomorrow. But the hope was that we would start that work this week. So that's good news to remove that pile. The downtown culvert project is currently out to bid.
Sorry,
They-
Michael,
I'm sorry.
can you please remind me how long that's estimated to take, the Sterling Street? I'm sure you told.
Yeah, I think it's a short time frame.
Week. I
Week?
think it was a week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just several
I think
weeks.
it was the 6th to the 12th or 6th to the 14th or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Thank
I think it's just several weeks. So it's just that one pile.
Yep.
So,
Sorry.
so yeah, so hopefully that'll be a good thing to finally move forward with that. The downtown culvert project is currently out to bid. They'll be deciding on project start date depending on weather conditions for the remainder of the winter as to whether that would, there's the only concern is there would be some traffic rerouting on Main Street. So if we do have a lot of snow or storms, then it's going to kind of confuse and really complicate traffic patterns. So they're going to kind of play that by ear, but at least getting it out to bid, getting it into contract, that'll be a good thing. So, okay, thank you.
Great.
The next, just an update on the Carriage House project. After 3 advertisements, there was one, I think I may have mentioned before, there was one bid received on the 3rd RFP. It was way over budget. So the architect is working to revise the scope and working with the contractor as to where they saw areas that made the cost go up, and trying to see if they can revise it and get it to a project that can at least get started. Even if it's not as involved as what was hoped, to at least to have something that's enough to get the exercise room built and up and running. So we'll have more information on that. I think something came in for review this afternoon. So once we get more information, I'll let you know further from there if that's going forward.
Okay.
Just an update on the conservation agent. The town of Sterling has begun posting and recruitment for the shared conservation agent position. Hopefully they'll get some good interest. I think it's severely needed here in Clinton. The Conservation Commission Chair has volunteered to participate in the selection process. It will be a hired Sterling employee. We have the agreement that the board approved for the intermunicipal agreement, which the town will share costs, but most of the oversight will be done by Sterling. So having, I think, some representation from the town on that selection committee is helpful. So we thank to Kim Roth for her help. The Executive Director of the Council on Aging, Deb Goodsell, has resigned her position, and the Human Resources Manager is working with the Council on Aging Board for the recruitment process. So that has been posted. I think the board may be meeting on Friday, I believe, to start reviewing resumes at that point. So they are trying to move forward on that as well. Um, Just a couple of the IT projects, just on the e-permitting. Now that we've cleared the holidays, our final step, everything is done. Our link is live, but we haven't put on the town website. We're just scheduling a final inspector training so that they feel comfortable on once the applications start coming in, that they can start processing it. There has been some training that was done through the process, but not anything comprehensive. So now that we're beyond the holiday scheduling, that we can, we're putting that together with the OpenGov staff to get that up on our town websites very shortly.
Just one quick question on that. Like, have we done any like testing to make like any dry runs to?
Yeah, we've looked at the link and both with the developers, with the company and on our own, that people have gone through in the building and kind of opened up and kind of navigated through to make sure it works. So the feedback I've gotten that it seemed, I think early on in developing, people were concerned because it was kind of rough. But I've got some feedback on the final product that it seems pretty intuitive to be able to follow through. So
Okay.
once we'll see, once it's up and the public starts using it, and many communities in Massachusetts have it. So I think a lot of the developers, a lot of people that do work around the area are familiar with it as well. And once they log in with their login, it'll populate all their information right for their application right away. So
What was the company that you chose?
that's OpenGov.
OpenGov.
OpenGov, yeah.
Great, thank you.
So in terms of the IT upgrade project, the computers have been delivered. They're all here here at Town Hall and storage. So we're just awaiting the all covered team to send their engineers out. They're going to be doing the programming, setup, and distribution all on site. So they'll send a team out and they'll start working on that. I don't have a date yet as to when that will be happening. The phones are all on order as well, but those can't be set up until the rest of the environment is all done because it all connects together. It all works on the Teams platform. So, but at least seeing things showing up here on site over the holidays was a good sign. So, so we're excited to get that started as well. So we got, once we're just about at the final stage with the permitting. We're close to the final with IT upgrade and with the financial management system as the next step. We've renegotiated the contract to go forward starting this year, 3 years forward. So that will now be the next in the slot to start doing the onboarding and implementation of that as well too. That's a much bigger project, even though it seems the other two were a lot because it's new to us. This one's even a much bigger project than that, but I think it's all going to all tie in. It's all going to be a good thing for the town as you know we go forward to really kind of going a huge leap of technology for the town with all support from the board and the ARPA funds and looking to look to the future. So so I appreciate that. And the final point, I just wanted to let everyone know that the budget requests are being distributed this year to this week to department managers to begin the FY '26 budget process, adhering to the schedule that was discussed by Finance Committee and Select Board several weeks ago. The deadline will be February 21st, and budget hearings will be scheduled immediately thereafter for March and April. With joint boards, and then the select board can do their own as well too if need be at that point. So so that's up and running. So yep. So kind of coming out of the gate after the holidays, we got a lot happening. So it's good, all good stuff. So thank you.
Just a quick question on the financial software. Like, is there any like estimated time frame for? I know it's been happening for a while, and
Yeah,
I'm glad it's getting started again. But
yeah, generally they say it's 6 to 9 months to get it up and running. So it's going to be tight for they either do a July 1 implementation or January 1. So it certainly will be tight for July 1, but it definitely should be able to have something by the end of this year, of this calendar year. So it is a large project, and not only in getting it created, but then the staff piece as well too. So, but one good thing is that during and post pandemic, the company was having a lot of customer service issues. So there was concern about starting a new system and not having the support, but they've really been able to catch up from that. And now the reviews that we're getting from cities and towns, that things seems much better. So so that's going to be a critical piece, especially on our end, that we have that help desk and that customer piece that can really work with our financial offices to use it the way that it was intended to. So it is a very robust system. So I know that we use another service right now. And I know the treasurer consultant that we're using is a proponent of the current system that we're using. But at the time that there was, the school piece was important to us, and the current vendor didn't have a good solution for that piece. So that's why everyone decided that the Munis product was what we were looking for at that time. So so good. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
No questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Old and new business, ARPA final projects update. Thanks for including this in our packet. Do you mind circulating that so we have it kind of separate from the packet? I do want to kind of periodically track these projects and where they stand from a status perspective, from a reporting perspective, to make sure we're continue to stay on track through 2026.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's important, especially with the spending piece, to make sure departments are following through, that they're out using the money. I mean, you have 2 years, but it doesn't have to be 2 years. It can all be done as soon as possible, and it can be, the project can be closed out. You don't have to wait till 26. The project can close out as soon as it's done. So I think that's a good idea to keep that as a regular. I think the chair mentioned you would like to keep it as a regular agenda item to continue to track that progress. So.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be on every meeting, but maybe every few meetings. So I'll track that and add it to it.
Right.
In addition, we have an update about the energy stretch code opt-out approval, green communities discussion. The Massachusetts Attorney General's office has reviewed and approved the action by the town meeting to opt out of the energy stretch code. So at town meeting, we opted out of this code. It says the town clerk is obligated to post notice in the local newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks, and this provision will take effect after the second posting on January 17th, 2025. With this action, Clinton will now be ineligible to participate in any green communities program. So we did achieve green community status. Now we no longer have that status with that town meeting vote, and we are now ineligible for any grant opportunities related to this program. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's an update on that program or that vote. Next up is recruiting timeline for the town administrator position. Specifically requested by Mr. Duval, but I can give some updates on that as I've met with the human resources manager and the personnel board this week.
Okay. I just have you just pass this down, Sean. This is just a very, very, very rough outline, but I just was hoping we can start kind of thinking in terms of a timeline, kind of have some dates or some general timeframes that we want to that we agree to and that we're going to try to stick to. So what I just laid out is just from January, February, March, April, May, just some things that we may be focusing on each month, and some decisions that we might have to make for this search on how we think the best way is to move forward. So it's my understanding, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, that we have had conversations with the same consulting firm that helped us on a couple of previous job searches. And the feedback that was received was that the salary is currently is much too low to attract any town administrator right now in the current market, in the current environment. But it's not as simple. It's not a simple process to adjust that that salary window. So my understanding of the process is that the personnel board has to be involved, and I think that
I don't want to interrupt you,
okay.
but I did speak to them last night and I don't think it's a problem. And I don't mean it in terms of their support, but I spoke to the new HR manager yesterday before the board.
Okay.
And I said that I was able to meet with the consultant who has helped us source candidates in the past. After Michael provided his information about not continuing with his contract. You are correct in stating that we do need to, the market rate is more than the current salary grid accommodates, but according to the human resources director, we don't need to, we can just go to a direct contract based on Massachusetts state law.
Oh, okay.
So that is somewhat resolved.
Okay.
So we don't need to go to a town meeting to get that changed, or the personnel board.
Okay.
So that's been resolved.
Okay.
So it will more mimic what the relationship would be with like the school superintendent.
Understood.
Where it would be, obviously there would be a budget, but it would not be capped at a salary grid restriction.
Okay.
So essentially, that's pretty much done.
Okay. No, that's this does apply
What?
to the assistant town administrator would
Correct.
fall under this.
Yes.
This reclassification.
Yeah, Ed, but by statute, you can have a contract with the town administrator.
Yeah.
So the fact that the board can have a contract with the town administrator, that trumps the personnel bylaws. The town
Okay.
administrator, that's always been contractual. So
Yeah.
the board can set that salary. That's not true of the assistant town administrator.
Correct.
There's no statutory right to have a contract with that
Correct.
position.
Okay.
So you got to go with personnel bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
And then we have started the discuss, I mean, I think it was recorded by Mark yesterday, so I can go back and watch, but I think the personnel board, okay, let me start over. If we're talking about the assistant town administrator position, the human resources manager felt that the current job description didn't read at the level in which we are anticipating that position. So his recommendation that was stated while we were at the personnel board would be to redo that job description, alert the current candidates and let them know, and reassess that salary.
I'm just laughed because I like personally wrote that job description. That's not a good.
Yeah, well, and to say, like, I think it was a negotiation. I mean, I was at one of those negotiations.
We're
all
starting from
fairness,
scratch.
And he's-
I did my best. I'm sorry.
Well, and to that point, like, he's a professional.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we hired him was for his expertise.
Yeah.
So,
Welcome it.
I think that his suggestion was a wise one.
Yep.
Because I think he is going through job descriptions and kind of identifying some, he felt that it read more as a executive assistant than a assistant town administrator. And that based on, I think, what we are looking for, then it just needs to be reassessed, which there certainly is urgency, but he made some good suggestions that I think we
That's
should follow
fine.
through with.
Yep.
He also felt that the salary grid was not reflective of market conditions, and that's a problem short
Sure.
term as we run into it with the treasurer collector position.
Yep.
We ran into it with the building commissioner, and then was stated there was no kind of mechanism to move forward with that. So, I think there's going to be like kind of a few tracks of initiatives in terms of trying to resolve this, because obviously we can't just kind of make these salary changes for new people, in terms of, retaining people we have too. Obviously, there's budget considerations with that too, but, I think the consultant and now the HR manager, I think
Mhm.
anecdotally, our board all
Right.
feel like we're in the same spot. Like we need to start addressing some of our gaps
Yeah.
in terms of personnel.
We have to start being
have to.
realistic with the market. It's just, it's not sustainable. So I think it's long overdue, to kind of reassess, some of those positions where the salary is just not reflective of the market. So that's welcome news. And I'm glad to get the feedback on the assistant town administrator. So we'll take this with a grain of salt because this was.
Well,
put
it's a
to-
great outline
Well,
in general to keep us on track. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can have another one for I think we should have a timeline to work off of, so I can fix this up with that new information. And then the timeline should collapse a little bit because I do have some time. What I wanted to have the discussion about is if the
Need.
town administrator's salary was part of this job classification,
Yeah.
I still was going to recommend that we move in parallel. I didn't really think it would make sense to wait to get that
Yeah.
classification because I just, I don't know how long it's going to take to get the whole thing organized, get the agreement from the personnel board, get a special town meeting,
Oh,
get
yeah.
everything, scheduled and B, it's a town, we don't know what's going to happen. Like depending on who shows up, you don't know what the results of that are going to be. So I just didn't think it would make sense to I always thought it would make sense to just keep moving forward and I think we could communicate because it's public knowledge that we're trying to do that job classification. So I thought the path would always be to move forward with the job search, but also communicate that we are trying to reclassify the position. But so anyway, so I guess we can go over this again. I can redo this with this new information, but I think this kind of ties into the next agenda item, which is the assistant town administrator, because I'm curious just what the rest of the board thinks is, are we planning on just, I just had laid it out in like 3 options. It's like, 1, we could pick up this current search where it left off and just start reaching out to other candidates in the assistant town administrator applicant pool. Option 2 would be we delay until we get the job classification, that job classification vote and that restructure, and then we repost and then we, I would hope that with the bump in salary, maybe we'd get more applicants or maybe better applicants because the salary might be a little bit more. And then the third option would be, do we even want to move forward with this? Or since we are doing a search for a new town administrator, do we just want to wait until we have a new town administrator and then move forward with the assistant town administrator search with the town administrator to make sure that we at least have their input on their opinion on some of the different candidates and their feedback. So that's where kind of my head's at, where I'm just curious what the rest of the board is thinking in regards to the assistant town administrator path. Do we still think, I kind of would like to just keep moving forward, but I'm not opposed if the board thinks the prudent thing to do is to wait until we have another town administrator and then do the search with them, since that person's going to be working closely with them. It's an open question. I'm curious what the rest of the board thinks.
Madam Chair, yeah, be in favor of moving forward with revamping the position, like the job description, salary, whatever, making it as close to what we want. But yeah, I mean, if it were me, I'd want to pick my number 2. So that's just how I feel. I'm fine with moving forward, but I'd be hesitant to make a decision without a town administrator in place.
That process will probably be very tight to when Michael's contract expires, assuming he doesn't leave before then. So, that is a factor I think that needs to be
Sorry, just
considered.
so I'm clear, what process? The,
To rehire a town administrator, according to our, if we would like help from a consultant,
Yeah.
they are saying it would be tight with 6 months.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
For the town administrator or assistant town administrator?
Town administrator,
Oh, okay, all right.
yeah.
Wait, did you just say option 2?
No,
I
kind of
think
a-
he's leaning
kind of
towards
a-
option 3.
It'd be, I think we should move forward with reclassifying the
Reclassifying.
position, but
But not.
not hiring it. That's me, but
Yeah. I think
it
that's,
shouldn't start from scratch when the new person starts, but like it should be ready to go. That's me.
yeah, I'm really, honestly, I know I said I was for like moving ahead now, but it's really, I'm right kind of like down the middle. I could be, I see the rationale in, I see the rationale in like just wanting to keep moving forward and get the position filled so we have the support. But I do understand the rationale of wanting to make sure that we do get feedback of the new town administrator to find out what they, what they think of the candidates and just get their feedback. So I guess, I could be that. I think that's why I just wanted to have the discussion. So I guess there is a lot of there's some logic in waiting for the new town administrator to get on board to do the assistant town administrator search again. But to Selectman Kerrigan's point, we can do all the homework on the job reclassification and everything in the meantime.
So so let's play out a scenario where we don't have an assistant town administrator and the contract expires. Then
We'll have to find
that
that
is me. If we don't, but an interim is not easy to find either, so
I think if,
we can noodle it over, but
I don't think it's gonna
Well,
be 6
discuss.
months. I mean, it won't get to 6 months and we realize that we don't have anybody. I think,
okay, so we'll just
Ideally,
kind
we
of
would
keep this
know.
conversation.
yeah, if it's not looking good, then we're gonna have to make a contingency. I think that's,
I'm shocked without having to worry about the town administrator salary grid or salary range.
Yeah.
That's
that-
off the table.
That helps.
Right. I mean, I'm only comparing this to the last time I did a search of this magnitude was for the superintendent, at the schools. And 6 months, I mean, it was a long process, but in my mind, I would think 6 months would be an adequate time frame. But if
budget season. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody's gonna leave. I probably wouldn't hire somebody who's gonna abandon their post in the middle of budget season. So,
I mean, yeah, I mean, and like anything, assuming you find someone and they currently have a job,
Right.
then they need to give their notice, whatever agreement that they've made for that. So, so that is the information I have right now. We also, I think, have to, if we choose to go the consultant route, there's a fee associated with that, and then also speak to the finance committee about budget considerations if there's an overlap. So I've spoken to the chair about that to make them aware of that, to anticipate that. They have a meeting, I think she's planning on scheduling something soon. And I'm sure that she will be flexible based on our personnel needs, so. Any other
So-
further discussion?
So it sounds then like our problem right now is we don't have enough runway for this search.
It'll be tight.
Okay, so we're gonna have
We're
to,
gonna, I think.
we have to come up with some sort of a
with
contingency,
plan.
yeah.
so what's the next step?
And I'll mention too that the consultant helping us is not in the bag. He gave me a few things that needed to be course corrected, which included this, just removing us from the grid, which apparently that was just not, we weren't really even on the grid.
Okay,
For the
yeah.
town administrator, it was on that spreadsheet, but I guess wasn't really the case. So that's been.
So 0 for 1.
And then the salary,
Oh, 1 for 1.
Yeah,
one for,
it's a win.
one for,
No, I mean, the advice from the consultant saying we have to get out of the grid and we were never on the grid in the
Grid,
first
okay,
place.
yeah, so-
That's 0 for 1 as far as advice on what we need, what's our first step. We were running around trying to figure out a new grid classification, then we found out
Turn
we
out
don't even,
we
we don't
didn't.
even have to do that.
So
So,
it's 1
is
for
any-
1.
anything
So-
else that we have to do? Huh?
I'll take that
Take
as
it.
a.
No, it's a win
I
that
don't remember Eddie playing baseball. We'll just,
it's a win that we don't have to do it.
Yeah,
It's the
it-
advice was not sound because the saying that like we had to do all that stuff when we don't have to because it's a contract. That's all I'm saying is the
yes,
For,
Next step.
yes,
Yep.
okay.
so I will reach out to the consultant, and also reach out to the finance committee, and we can start to talk about.
Well, how many other hurdles do we have to jump over before this guy is going to give us the privilege of using his services for this
We have
search?
to, well, I will find out. That's, no, I mean, let's liken this to the treasurer collector situation.
Okay.
It's not worth their effort if we cannot, it will,
I get,
it's the same thing.
no, I get,
So I'm not saying he was saying, I'm not working with you, but there were some things that were not advantageous where he didn't think we would be successful unless we made some changes. And I said, give me a couple weeks so I can work that out. So we've
right.
checked
And
that box off, and then
the salary was
Salary.
one thing, which is no longer a problem. So what were some of the
I
other?
mean, we have to budget for the salary at least for next year.
Correct.
And we were hoping to have some overlap. I don't know if that's realistic, but
Right.
I think it would be necessary, but. So any like financial, I guess, classification check, any financial considerations?
So just making sure that the money's in the budget. I'm just, we don't have to do this right now. We can, but
Yeah.
I just, whatever the requirements are from this consultant, before he thinks we can.
No, I
hire
think
him
we're,
or-
I mean, I think we're close. We've, that, having the ability to negotiate a budget and a contract outside of that salary grid was a big hurdle.
Right.
And now we just have to, there's a fee and a budget.
Okay, I'm in my head, the
Mhm.
very first step is to get this consultant
Oh,
hired. And what
Yes, so
money-
now we can, so the personnel board meeting and that information was last night.
Right,
So I wanted to wait for our discussion tonight,
okay,
because if everyone said, well, we don't want a consultant, then there's no point in even entertaining that. But I do feel like they were valuable in the past and could be valuable again.
I think we had a great experience with when we've used them, so.
I agree.
And I like having kind of an independent voice in the midst of the search. Okay, so I guess we'll just, if there are any other
Yeah.
anything else that they need us to do
Yeah.
before, we'll just, I just
I can update people as
Yeah,
I find out.
don't want to go like 3 months and we're still.
No,
like,
no,
not-
I don't.
Have this,
We can't.
okay,
So
okay.
the urgency is there if I'm not showing it right now, but
Okay.
it's there. For
All
sure.
right, so thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions or concerns about this topic? Okay. Committee reports? Any?
Not for me.
Okay. There are no community announcements. And, I screw this up every time. We are going to leave open session to go to an executive session. Do I have to state why we're going to executive session?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Step 3, oh, that's not happening. The fire union negotiation update. As I said, we will not be returning to open session after that. So roll call to
Ed DeVault, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, I.
Julie Cruz, aye.
Matt Kobus, aye.
Ray Dick, aye.